Hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, some Halloween skeleton lights. I know. It's still cold out. I get it. Halloween's a long time away. No big deal. That doesn't mean that you can't make projects that are Halloween related early. Get some prep work done. This is another resin pouring project, guys, and there's so much that you could do with it, and I just thought this idea came to me and I thought I'd bring it to you, and you know what? It just screams Halloween. So let's start over at the bench. Well, this is probably going to be one of the easiest casting projects I've ever brought to you here on the show. And it really doesn't involve very much work as far as prep work from you. But it does start off with this. And what this is a silicone ice cube mold. And these are in the shape of skulls. Now, with silicone, resin does not stick to it. So it really, these silicone ice cube molds are rather inexpensive, and they're a great way to cast resins. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is mix up some resin, and we're going to cast some skulls. All in all, for my project here, I'm going to need 10 skulls, so this is going to be a multiple pour process over a couple of days. Well, for this, I'm going to be mixing up a full cup of epoxy because of the number of skulls that I have to make. So we'll just do some careful measuring here. And this is in a silicone measuring cup, which really comes in handy here as well for mixing this resin. I've decided that I'm not going to mix a full cup. I'm going to mix 2/3 of a cup and see how we do. I'd hate to have too much resin and then end up wasting it. There we go. And we'll give that a good mix and then start pouring our skeletons into our mold. I've said this on other shows before. I love these silicone mixing cups because they're reusable. The resin, the epoxy resin, does not stick to silicone, and therefore after you give this a good mix, once you have your resin poured out into your castings, you can just set this aside and let it dry, and later on just pop it out and reuse your cup. There we go. I think that's pretty well mixed. Now we'll just fill our molds and then get them into the pressure pot. You want to pour this nice and slow so you don't get air bubbles in it. It's an oddly shaped mold, and it's a little tricky to pour. All right, and we'll get that now into the pressure pot. That's right in there. Well, truth be told, it's been a week since I cast these. I did them at the end of the shop day last weekend, so it's time to demold them. And with these silicone molds, the resin doesn't stick to it, which is really a nice thing. because you really, and at least I have found, you don't need any mold release spray or anything like that. So we're just going to take these out, and I'll show you what it is that you end up with. You end up with this sort of a thing. And it's basically 4 skeleton heads, and they have some parts where the resin has leaked between and caused them to join together, but we can trim that up. It's not that big of a deal. So the first thing that we're going to do is separate all of our skeleton heads. Now you can see here that some molds will leak more than others, and this one here has a much thicker section between the skulls. So all we're going to do is go around the outer edges, and we're going to break off the majority of this excess resin. Well, I've tried several methods to get the excess off of our skulls, and I have found that the best way to go about it is just a simple little sharp knife. Now, I've got some of this high friction tape on my thumbs, and that will protect me or help protect me from any knife slips. If you don't have that kind of friction tape like that, or carver's tape at your disposal, you know what, a pair of gloves works just as well. So I'm just going to carefully trim off all of the excess from the molds, and when I get all of these done, I'm going to come back and see you, and we can move on to the next step. Well, once you get them all trimmed and done, you get a bunch of these really cool looking clear resin skulls. But we need another piece to make our light set work. So for now, I'm not going to make any bones about it. We're going to move ahead, and I'm going to, I guess I'm going to rack my skull for the next step. Okay, I'll stop. Let's move this aside. And what we need is a set of these. And what this is a little battery operated LED set of lights that I got from the dollar store. And initially they had these little snowflake things glued onto them, and they were deemed as Christmas lights. I think they were like $1.50 or something like that. So all I've done is I've pulled all of these snowflakes off of here, and we will end up taking a measurement now of the diameter of the widest part of one of our LED lights. And if we get in there and take a measurement, want to give ourselves a little bit of wiggle room. It looks like 7/32 will be perfect, because what I want to do is I want to drill a hole in these skulls that will house these little LED lights. The thing is that I'm not 100% sure if I want to drill down through the top of the skull or if I want to drill in through the back. So what I'm going to do is I made some extras. I'm going to use those as sacrificial skulls, and I'm going to drill a couple of holes, and we're going to test it and see which one looks best. Well, I have these lights temporarily pushed down. I drilled the holes 5/8 of an inch deep. I figured that would be sufficient. What I'm going to do, you know what, let's turn off the lights and see how these look without any lighting. Alright, so I guess the big question is, which one do we like best? And I'm looking at this, and I don't really like the one coming from the back. It gives too much of a bright white dot in the middle of his forehead there, as opposed to coming down from the top. It seems to illuminate the entire thing much better. So I think I'm going to go with the top mount, and I'm going to head over to the drill press and I'm going to drill 10 of these skulls down through the top. Well, now it's time to attach our lights inside of our skulls, and for that I'm going to be using Gorilla Glue Clear. So we're just going to apply a little bit of the adhesive down inside the hole. We don't really want a lot. You don't want to seal this in there so much as you want to just get a drop at the bottom and allow the light to be glued into your skull. So I'm going to glue all of these in, and then when they're all dried up, I'm going to come back and see you. So with the Gorilla Glue, it needs to be clamped for 2 hours. So in order to clamp it, all I'm going to do is I'm going to use some rubber bands. And we'll just slide it along the string of lights till we get it to the one that we want. Just like that. Pick our skull. We're going to put just a couple of drops of this Gorilla Glue Clear down inside of our hole. You don't want a lot. There's one little drop. And there's 2 little drops. There we go. See, it doesn't take much. And then I'm going to take just a little bit of water on the end of my finger, and I'm just going to dab it here onto our LED just to dampen it. That's all you want to do. And then we're going to put this down inside our hole, getting it nicely seated there in our Gorilla Glue, and then just take this rubber band and wrap it around the skull. Just like that. There you go. And now that that is done, we can do the rest of them, and then we just let it sit and wait. Well, it's been just over 2 hours, and I'm pretty confident that we can take away these rubber bands. And I guess really the only thing left to do here with these skull lights is to take them in the dark and give them a test run. Oh my, that is awesome. And there you have it. Some Halloween skull lights. Guys, Halloween is one of my favorite times of the year. Just the whole fun aspect of it, the spooky decorating and the kids going house to house getting candies for trick-or-treat. It's just a wonderful time of year, and it's a lot of fun. And although we are far from getting there just yet, it's going to creep up on you faster than what you realize. And a project like this, well, the perfect time to do it is now. What did this project take? Nothing. It took some inexpensive skull ice cube, silicone ice cube molds, which my wife already had, but I will post a link to them below. It took some resins, and that was really it. A cheap dollar store LED battery operated light set. And I can really see these being like as a centerpiece of a table where there might be some pine cones and some autumn type things, some spooky sort of things, all sitting there with these lit up skulls. There's all kinds of things you could do with it, but it's not just limited to Halloween. What if you had a different type of mold and you could incorporate it into different holidays or different occasions? It doesn't have to be Halloween. I just love Halloween, and oh my gosh, I love the way this turned out. This is spectacular. Guys, resins are not that difficult to do. And if you're just tuning in today's show, if this is your first time here with me today, I will post all the links for all the shows, like converting a paint tank into a pressure pot, the comparison casting between with or without the pressure pot. Guys, it's a lot of fun. It's a ton of fun. And though it has absolutely nothing to do with woodworking, that is what Alternative Tuesdays is all about. It's about bringing you something a little different that you may have thought about dabbling in, but you just didn't go that extra step. But you can see the results, you can see the fun I'm having. Guys, you gotta give this a try. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe and click that bell so that you don't miss the notifications of future episodes of my show. Guys, I really want to thank you so much for tuning in this week. I hope you're going to try the project yourself. I hope you found it interesting and entertaining at least. And I honestly hope that you're going to join me again next week when I bring you yet another Alternative Tuesdays.